That's because they are in the FedEx truck, and 99% of it is in the truck. There is a large normal range. If you look at blood tests in premenopausal women, the range is like from 0 to 500. And then there's no correlation with what the progesterone ratio is. So it's just a number. And this is the most important. Serum measurements of steroid hormones provides limited clinically useful information. It's useless. The only limited information it gives you, it tells you that the ovary is either making estrogen or it's not making estrogen. But it doesn't tell you anything about the balance between estrogen and progesterone. So that's what I'm saying. I don't have to debate you. All I got to do is show you the textbook. Okay. Now, most of the people out there on Instagram and TikTok, they haven't gone through a GYN residency. They have not read the textbook. They're reading studies, these recent studies, and you can make a study say whatever you want it to say. Okay. If you wanted to say you need estrogen, I can devise a study to say that you need estrogen. And so there's a quote that says, if you want new ideas, you need to read old books. So this is an old book. If you can see, it was made in 1994. But let me tell you what's older is human physiology. Okay. People have been having babies since the beginning of time. And so this estrogen and progesterone cycle has been around since the beginning of mankind. And it really hasn't changed very much. And just because somebody on TikTok or on Instagram is saying that you can get useful information from blood, they are 100% wrong. 100% wrong. Okay. Rebel, can you see how passionate I am about this?
I definitely do. And people need to understand, just because you placed the order and it got on that FedEx truck doesn't mean that the delivery wasn't put on your doorstep and someone took it right off of there.
Exactly. So this is what blood testing does. It overdoses people. Okay, because the only way you're going to see an elevation in the blood is after the tissue has been saturated. So it's almost like, let's say that the FedEx truck was delivering toasters to you, okay? And you had to use one toaster a day. All right, but they're delivering 2 toasters. Okay. Well, that extra toaster, after a while, it will fill up your whole house and you'll have to go on Amazon and ask for a return. And so it goes back into the blood. So this lady came to me because she was gaining weight like crazy. She had started having menstrual cycles again. Well, look at her estrogen. It's 20 and normal is 0.6 to 4.5. And look at this estrogen progesterone ratio is 8.1. And it should be greater than 200. This is what blood testing does to people. It overdoses them. And now all of her tissues are being subjected to excess estrogen. So her breast, her uterus, and her fat tissue, all of that is being affected by this excess estrogen. And she doesn't have nearly enough progesterone. Now, here's the problem. If I tell her to stop her estrogen cold turkey, she's going to have hot flashes again, because estrogen is a weird hormone. Is that the more estrogen you're exposed to, the more receptors your body makes for it. So just think of this. So now she has enough receptors for 20 units of estrogen. Now, if I tell her to stop cold turkey and those receptors don't see estrogen, that causes a fluctuation where they start to have hot flashes. So the patient starts to think, I can't get off this estrogen because now my hot flashes have come back. So you have to taper them off the estrogen while you increase their progesterone. So you have to think of it like this. Her estrogen's here, your progesterone's there. You can't take it away cold turkey. You have to do this. You have to try and bring the progesterone up at the same time you're slowly lowering her estrogen, because progesterone helps the person to get rid of those extra estrogen receptors. Now, I hope I'm not getting too medically technical, but that's what happens. And that's what I have to do when a patient comes to me and says, hey, I've been going to this doctor and he keeps telling me I'm not absorbing the estrogen because he doesn't see it in the blood test. But I keep telling him I feel worse and worse. And I just had to find another doctor. Those are the people who come to me. Okay. So I think that's the last slide. Now, here's number 5. Thinking that women need testosterone for energy. Okay. You see this lady, she got that. Now, again, this is what I hear on TikTok and Instagram and all of this. Testosterone is a male hormone. It is a male hormone. Women need a little bit of testosterone, just like men need a little bit of estrogen. But testosterone for men is tied to their cardiovascular health, their libido, their energy. So no doubt about it, testosterone is important in men. But I also tell you in men, cortisol is important because I see a lot of men who think they're low in testosterone, but these type A, high level executive type guys who are burning the candle at both ends, they have cortisol issues too. So in men, it's not all about testosterone either. All right. So I don't know how this has come about. Now, I'll tell you why. Because in women, testosterone in the blood is negligible. It's always very low. I don't care who you are. Testosterone is not a major hormone in women. Now, if I give a woman testosterone, this is what will happen. Men think that, oh, now their libido is going to increase. That does happen in some women. But here's what I see more often. Women are on testosterone. They're looking in the blood to see what the levels are. By the time it gets in the blood, the patient is already overdosed. So she may have more libido, but also her hair is thinning. Also, she's getting hair where she doesn't want it. Also, testosterone causes acne in women. And so, so this is the problem. Now, if testosterone gets too high, the woman doesn't increase her libido. She actually becomes more aggressive. I had a woman who came to me, and the reason why she came because her husband was afraid of her because she would get so angry at him. He thought she was actually going to hurt him. Now, this is a person also, she was on testosterone. The doctor kept saying that she wasn't absorbing it, so he gave her more and more. Now, she came to me because she was in the church choir and she was going from soprano to alto, and then they were about to move her into the baritone section. Well, I got her saliva test. Now, this was like 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't have it here. But her testosterone was like 700, and it should be between like in the low hundreds or whatever. It took almost a year to get her testosterone down, and that's what I'm talking about. When you overdose women or men on hormones, it is very taxing to the liver. The liver is responsible for detoxing all these hormones. And the liver has enough to do just by breathing the air we breathe and drinking the water that we drink and eating the foods that we eat. It has to detoxify all of this. And so we don't need to give it 20 picograms of estrogen to have to deal with. And here's the other thing with estrogen. Estrogen has to be excreted through your stool. And a lot of women are constipated. And if you're not having at least 2 bowel movements a day, you actually have low gut motility. And if that stool stays in the colon too long, you begin to reabsorb the estrogen that your body was trying to get rid of. And it disturbs the bacteria, the balance of bacteria in your gut. And so it can lead to leaky gut. So that's why it's so important to do the proper testing and to understand what estrogen and progesterone and testosterone do. So that's why I'm so adamant about this, okay? Because women and men, you need to understand, you have to be your own advocate for your health. Some doctors hate Google or the internet. I love it because the patient can go on there and they can look at all sorts of information and they can decide what's right for them. And so I love a well-educated patient. I know sometimes you go to the doctor and don't let a doctor intimidate you. I'm like, you need to be asking the questions. Okay. You have to ask the doctor. You have to challenge the doctor. And I'm telling you that this information is not too hard for the average person to understand. All you have to do, yes, go ahead.
Does the body naturally make these hormones, and can the body naturally make too many or too little of the hormones, testosterone and estrogen in the body?
Yeah. And so that, we call it estrogen dominance. Yes. Now, I won't say the body can make too much estrogen, but they can make estrogen and progesterone out of balance. And here's the problem. So in order to make progesterone, you have to ovulate. You have to make an egg. But ovulation is very delicate. Your body is very sensitive. And if a patient is under stress, they usually will not ovulate because the body is very wise. It says, hey, you're under enough stress, from your job or from whatever. And it says pregnancy is very stressful to you physically. So if you're under stress physically or emotionally, you may not ovulate. And if you don't ovulate, you're not going to make enough progesterone. So it's not that your body is making too much of something. It's making the normal amount of estrogen, but because you didn't ovulate, you didn't make enough progesterone. Now, I'm talking about women over 40, but that's what perimenopause is about, is that you begin to ovulate irregularly. That's why it's hard for you to get pregnant. So now in perimenopause, you're making a lot of cysts, you're making a lot of eggs that make estrogen, but you're not ovulating. So now you have an excess amount of estrogen, you're not ovulating, you don't have enough progesterone. So now you're gaining weight, you're having irregular bleeding, your mammograms are starting to come up positive. So that's what is going on. And that's why stress is so important, because it can stop ovulation. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. That means you're making a lot of cysts, but you're not ovulating. So you have a lot of estrogen, you don't have enough progesterone. And here's what your body does, because it's so smart. It starts to make testosterone to do something to counteract all that